Okay, guys, we're going to be learning a little bit about Shel Silverstein this week, who was a famous poet. He was also a humorist, an illustrator, a playwright, a musician, and a poet. In fact, he actually wrote a song by a famous singer and musician named Johnny Cash. The song was called "A Boy Named Sue," and he won a Grammy Award also for the Best Children's Album for "Where the Sidewalk Ends," which is one of his books and collections of his work. So here we have a few of his books. Lafcadio, The Lion Who Shot Back, which was his first children's book, was published in 1963. We also have The Giving Tree, and this was a book of his that took actually 4 years to get published because it was initially met by the publishing company with some mixed reviews who were hesitant to do so. And we also have a book of his, Where the Sidewalk Ends, which I mentioned before was the one that he won a Grammy Award for in the musical album that he made for it. And this book, it contains a collection of his poems and drawings, and like I said, it was published in 1974. And then we also have A Light in the Attic, which was published in 1981, maybe one of his more recognizable covers, I would say. And this book was the first children's book to be on the New York Times bestseller list, and it stayed there for 182 weeks. So, what we could say about his books and his work, some generalizations, would be that his themes are basically general life lessons that could help anyone. His style of writing is very detailed, but it's also playful. The illustrations in his book are simple, and many of them were often made without color, with a few exceptions, such as the Giving Tree, and the colors even used there were very simple and few. And then also in his work, he uses a lot of rhyming in either the stories and the poems. So we have styles, themes, and characteristics of his work. And the styles of his work is very imaginative and open-minded. Like the things that are in there would take some creative thinking to come up with. Themes that are present in his work are typically problems that both children and adults can face and general life lessons. Characteristics of the work itself is that it utilizes many similes, metaphors, rhyme schemes, rhythm, alliteration, and other literary devices that help to create mood and feelings in the work itself. So, how did his background influence his work? And before he began to write children's literature, he did serve as a GI in Japan and Korea back in the 1950s. And that's where he got his first start. He wrote for a military publication then. And then after that, he tried a few different other things before he got into children's literature, which had him travel all throughout the world. And while visiting the many countries, he gained exposure to different cultures and a lot of diversity, which is present in his work. If you look at it, it's very diverse. There's a lot of differences between what he did compared to many other children's authors. So his works have also been affected by the events that occurred during his life and in that time, such as the Great Depression and World War II. They were also influenced by his time serving in the Korean War and in the recovery period of America. That's because the recovery period, it contained a lot of creativity and out-of-the-box thinking in ways that we could get back to where we were as a country. And that was also a result, and which as a result generated many new and innovative ideas. So, for our activities, we're gonna need to understand certain elements of poetry, and there are six basic ones here that we're gonna use, and hopefully you can have some fun with them in these activities. We'll start with rhythm, which is how we emphasize the syllables when we read them, and a group of them is called a foot. We have something called tone, which is the attitude or mood of a poem. It's created by word choice and other literary devices. A poem can have different stanzas, which are like it's a group of lines forming the basic metrical unit of a poem, much like a paragraph in writing. And they have couplets, tercets, quatrains, and cinquains, which each of those is a little bit different. Couplets would be a 2-line stanza, tercet 3, quatrain 4, and cinquain 5, and it goes on from there. We also have rhyme, which is when 2 words sound the same when they're spoken, but you have to also remember that they don't have to be spelled the same, and they can follow different schemes. And the schemes, there are some examples of those down below. You can see AABB, ABAB, and ABCB, where those rhyming schemes follow those patterns in the lines. And this helps to create a pattern within the poem, which makes it more fun and interesting. And just some examples of rhyme, just to show you that they don't have to be spelled the same. We have train and rain, which are spelled similarly, but there's also something like, maybe you could think of pause and laws, or flow and though, or to and do. Poetry also uses imagery, which, what that is, imagery you might think of pictures or things that you would look at, but imagery can be also utilized through language, which is the language used by poets, and that helps to create the images in the minds of the readers. And the final element that we have here that we're going to want to focus on is figurative language, which are figurative language consists of literary tools that can be used to aid in the imagery, such as metaphors, similes, hyperboles, personification, symbolism, cliches, and there are a variety of other ones, but those are just some examples there for you. And in the center is an example of one of Shel Silverstein's poems from a book that was released after he had passed away. And this poem was called When I Am Gone. It says, "When I am gone, what will you do? Who will write and draw for you? Someone smarter, someone new, someone better, maybe you." And I think that was just a fun little poem to share with you guys. So we'll go ahead and look next at some of these activities that we're going to be doing in class, so you have a general idea of what to expect. We have one that's called the Poet Tree, which you can go look at that a little bit and just get an idea. We also are going to be doing an activity where you're going to create your own acrostic poem. And then we will have a game that we're going to play with each other. You're going to get into pairs, so maybe 3, depending on how many we have in the class that day. And that's going to be the simile game. So we're going to have fun with these activities in class. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and we're going to be looking forward to sharing all of what we can with you and having some fun. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you Thursday.